Welcome back to the channel, and thank you for being here at this exact moment in the universe. I'm your guide tonight, and I want to start with something that might seem strange to say before a relaxing video. I'm going to blow your mind right away, and we'll settle into something genuinely calming. Here's the shocker. You are not separate from nature. Your body is literally made of stardust and ancient ocean water. But here's what will blow your mind even more right now. At this moment, your cells are engaging in the exact same chemical processes that happened billions of years ago in the first living organisms. You're not just connected to evolution. You are evolution, happening in real time. Your consciousness, your ability to think about your own existence, is the universe becoming aware of itself through 3.8 billion years of continuous, unbroken evolutionary inheritance. Think of it like this. If all of evolutionary time were a 24-hour clock starting at midnight, humans showed up at 11:58 p.m. We've only been here for 2 minutes on that cosmic day. And in that 2 minutes, we figured out we're made of atoms. We figured out how we got here. We figured out the rules that govern all life. Now that's something to contemplate as you drift toward sleep. Before we go deeper, I want to invite you into this journey with me. If you're from somewhere fascinating, drop your country and the time you're listening in the comments below. I genuinely read these. And I'm endlessly curious which part of Earth is winding down right now with evolution on their mind. And if this kind of content speaks to you, subscribe and hit the notification bell. There are hundreds of thousands of people discovering that science is actually the most relaxing thing to think about, and I'd love to have you join our community. Now here's a mind-bending moment. Darwin didn't discover evolution. Nature did. What Darwin did was translate it into language humans could understand. When he sailed on the HMS Beagle in 1831, he wasn't looking for a new theory. He was looking at birds, specifically finches in the Galapagos Islands. And here's what will genuinely comfort you to know. The process of evolution is not violent, not scary, not even fast. It's the slowest, most patient process in the universe. It takes millions of years of tiny, imperceptible changes. It's the opposite of an explosion. It's a whisper that echoes across epochs. Charles Darwin published On the Origin of Species in 1859, and within that book was a single diagram. That diagram showed how all life branches from a common ancestor. It was like he'd drawn a map of the deepest connection possible, the family tree of literally everything alive. Except it's not just a tree. It's more like a root system. Everything connects underground, in the past, through shared ancestors. Let me give you a moment of pure wonder here. You share 98.8% of your DNA with chimpanzees. But more profound, you share 60% with bananas. Yes, bananas. The genetic machinery that makes you think, that gives you consciousness, exists in fundamental form in fruit. Because somewhere, billions of years ago, we had the same ancestor. We diverged, but the core programming is identical. You are not separate from bananas. You evolved alongside them. You share a grandmother. And if that doesn't relax you, knowing how deeply connected you are to all life, then nothing will. The comfort here is real. You're not alone in existence. You're part of an unbroken chain of life, stretching backward 4 billion years and stretching forward indefinitely. You're a continuation. You're not new. You're ancient. Your atoms have been alive countless times before. Your genetic code has been tested by time itself and found reliable enough to build you. So before we go deeper into the science, I need you to take a breath with me. Feel that? That breath came from plants that evolved from oceans. Your lungs are descendants of fish gills. When you breathe, you're using a technology that's been perfected for 400 million years. Isn't that incredible? Now, if you're ready to relax into the deepest understanding of how you came to exist, how all life came to exist, stay with me. Because the next section, we're going to lay the foundation. We're going to understand what evolution actually is, not as a scary concept, but as nature's way of saying, I care about you so much that I spent billions of years perfecting you. Let's go there together. The word evolution has been weaponized in our culture. People hear it and think of conflict, struggle, survival. But that's actually a misreading of what Darwin meant. Evolution isn't about winning. Evolution is about adapting. And adapting is just nature's way of saying, let's try this and see if it works. Think of it like this. Imagine you move to a cold city. You don't suddenly grow a thicker coat because you decided to. But your grandchildren might. Not because they're trying. Not because it's a battle. Just because in a cold city, the people with slightly thicker genetic predisposition to make insulating fat or proteins lived longer, healthier lives, had more kids, and passed on that tendency. That's evolution. It's not aggressive. It's not conscious. It's just life optimizing itself. Here's what evolution actually requires: 3 simple ingredients. Are you ready? Because this is where the magic happens. First, variation. Not everyone is exactly the same. Some people are taller, some are shorter, some have slightly different enzyme efficiency. Second, inheritance. Those variations can be passed to offspring through genes. Third, time. Enough generations that small preferences add up. That's it. Those 3 things, working together over millions of years, create every form of life you see. Darwin noticed these 3 things during his voyage aboard the HMS Beagle. He wasn't the first person to sail those islands. He wasn't even the first person to notice the finches were different. But he was the first person to understand what those differences meant. In December 1831, he boarded that ship. In September 1835, he reached the Galapagos. He spent 5 weeks. They are 5 weeks that would reshape human understanding forever. What Darwin observed was this. The finches on different islands had different beak shapes. On islands with seeds that were easy to crack, finches had thin beaks. On islands with hard seeds, finches had thick, powerful beaks. He didn't see this as islands creating new species. He saw it as nature testing different solutions. Like a sculptor with infinite time, gently shaping each variation that worked, just slightly favoring it, generation after generation. Now here's a moment that might actually relax you into sleep. Evolution is not forced. Nature doesn't punish variation. It just slightly favors the variations that work better in a given environment. If you have a variation that helps you survive in your particular corner of the world, you tend to live longer. You tend to have more children. Your genes spread through the population. Not because you were stronger or more virtuous, but just because mathematics favored you. Isn't there something comforting about that? Your success, my success, isn't about winning a battle. It's about fitting into the world around you. Think about artificial selection for a moment. Humans have been doing this for thousands of years. We take wild wolves and carefully breed them for specific traits, friendliness, for instance. Now they're dogs. We took wild plants and bred them for bigger seeds, sweeter fruit. Now they're crops. We didn't change the fundamental mechanism of inheritance. We just applied preference. We said, this trait is good. Let's encourage it. Nature does exactly the same thing. Environment applies preference. And over deep time, the results are spectacular. Here's a fact that should make you drift into wonder. Every dog breed came from the same ancestor, the gray wolf. Chihuahuas and Great Danes share the same species ancestor. And we created that diversity in maybe 15,000 years. Tops. Now imagine what evolution can do in 3.8 billion years, with infinite patience and every environment on Earth as its canvas. This is the creative force that sculpted you. Let me plant a seed now that will flower later. Evolution is still happening. Right now. In you. In me. Bacteria are evolving antibiotic resistance in weeks instead of millions of years because they reproduce so fast. Humans are evolving too, though we don't notice because our generations are long. But already, If you look at human populations, we're slightly different than we were 10,000 years ago. We're taller. We've lost the ability to digest milk from animals as adults in some populations. That's actually evolution in action. Our genome is still being shaped by our environment. But here's the really relaxing part. You don't have to do anything about it. Evolution doesn't require your participation. It happens whether you're paying attention or not. It's like the most patient gardener in the universe, tending to the growth of life itself, and you're just along for the most extraordinary ride. So take a moment. You now understand the basic machinery. Variation, inheritance, time. Those three things created you. They created every creature that's ever lived. And the knowledge that you're shaped by the most ancient and patient process in nature, shouldn't that be calming? Let it settle in as we move forward into deeper waters. What if I told you that the hardest part about understanding evolution isn't the science? It's the time. Our brains literally cannot comprehend deep time. We think in years, maybe decades. We plan for decades. Our history goes back thousands of years, and we think that's ancient. But evolution requires millions, billions. When biologist John McPhee wrote about deep time, he tried to describe it this way. If you compress all of Earth's history into a single year, humans showed up on December 31st at 11:58 p.m. Our entire civilization, every book, every building, every person who ever lived happened in the last 60 seconds of that year. And we're talking about the history of life as if we understand it because we study it for a few decades. We're mayflies trying to comprehend the existence of mountains. Here's a mind-blown moment. The Tyrannosaurus rex lived 68 million years ago. The last dinosaur died 66 million years ago. That sounds close, right? But think of it this way. The T-Rex lived closer to us in time than it did to the Stegosaurus. The Stegosaurus died 150 million years ago. That's how vast the era of dinosaurs was. They didn't all live together in one era. They spanned eons, and new species evolved while old species walked the earth, completely unaware that someday, millions of years after they died, beings would imagine them as coexisting. Let me ground this in something tangible. 1 million years. Say that number out loud. 1 million years. Now, humans have only been around for about 300,000 years. So 1 million years is more than 3 times longer than humanity has existed. Got it? Now multiply that by 4,000. That's how old life is. Life is 4,000 times older than humans. We're not the climax of evolution. We're an epilogue to a book that started before there was oxygen in the air. Think of it like this. Imagine reading a book where the first 380 pages are all about oceans. Then for 50 pages, fish. Then for 40 pages, amphibians walking on land. Then for 150 pages, dinosaurs having their era. Then for 10 pages, mammals. Then, and this is where we are, the last single page is devoted to humans, and we're only a few paragraphs in. We have no idea what the next paragraphs hold. Now here's what should genuinely relax you, knowing we're not at the end. Knowing that if humans exist in 100 million years, those beings will look back at us as quaintly as we look back at fish. The universe doesn't revolve around your moment in time, and that should be liberating. You're not responsible for being the final form. You're not responsible for having all the answers. You're just a beautiful moment in a process that will continue long after you're gone. Dr. Richard Dawkins, one of the most important evolutionary biologists of our time, has called deep time the greatest revolution in human thought. Greater than Copernicus moving us from the center of the universe. Greater than Einstein's relativity. Because what deep time does is fundamentally change how you see yourself. You're not a pinnacle. You're a note in an endless symphony. Let me give you a fact that should make you settle into your pillow. Your body contains atoms that are 4.5 billion years old. The calcium in your bones? Forged in the heart of dying stars before our solar system existed. The oxygen in those bones? created in stellar furnaces. The iron in your blood, made when stars exploded. You're not just made of matter. You're made of star stuff that's been cycling through the universe since before Earth existed. And those atoms have a history. Some of them were in dinosaurs. Some of them were in the oceans when life first began. Some of them were in plants that fed into animals that fed into your ancestors. The atoms of your body are not new. They're being recycled. They've lived thousands of lives. In you, they're having another moment of consciousness, another chance to experience existence. Think of it like this. When you're gone, those atoms won't disappear. They'll be in soil, in plants, in animals that come after you. You're not ending. You're transforming. You're part of a cycle that's been happening for 4 billion years and will continue long after you. That should make you breathe easier. And here's another mind-blown moment that ties it all together. Evolution isn't a ladder with humans at the top. Evolution is a tree, a vast branching tree where every living thing is at the tip of its own branch. Humans aren't more evolved than fish. Fish are perfectly adapted to being fish. We're perfectly adapted to being us. But in truth, fish have had just as much time to evolve as we have. They've been perfecting their form for 500 million years. We've been perfecting ours for maybe 6 million. If anything, fish are more experienced at the whole evolution thing. This should genuinely calm you. You don't have to be the best. Evolution doesn't have a best. It just has adapted to current conditions. And you, right now, in this moment, are perfectly adapted to be a human in the 21st century. You have a brain that can contemplate its own existence. You have language. You have tools. You have the ability to understand that you're a continuation of billions of years of life. That's not an accident. That's evolution working beautifully. So let the weight of deep time settle on you now. Not as a burden, but as a comfort. You're ancient. Your atoms are ancient. Your genetic code is ancient. And you're part of something so much bigger than yourself that it spans from the dawn of life to the unknowable future. Relax into that knowledge. Here's where we're going to get genuinely peaceful. Because the origin of life isn't a mystery to be feared. It's a beautiful story of inevitability and chemistry. 4 billion years ago, Earth was different. It had no oxygen, no plants, no animals, just rocks, water, and chemicals. Lightning cracked the sky. Volcanoes erupted. Solar radiation beat down on the atmosphere. If you traveled back to early Earth, you'd think it was dead. Utterly, completely dead. But in this chaos, something was about to begin. In the 1950s, a brilliant young scientist named Stanley Miller conducted an experiment that should make you settle into wonder. He took a flask of water, added methane, ammonia, and hydrogen chemicals believed to be in early Earth's atmosphere. He heated it, sparked it with electricity to simulate lightning, and cooled it. What he found was extraordinary. The flask developed complex organic molecules. The building blocks of life formed spontaneously from simple chemicals exposed to energy. What Miller demonstrated was this: life doesn't require a miracle. It requires chemistry. It requires energy. Give simple molecules enough energy in the right conditions, and they organize themselves. They build complexity. This was a mind-blown moment for science. It meant that life wasn't something impossible that needed divine intervention. Life was inevitable given the right conditions. Think of it like this. Imagine you shake up a snow globe. The water and snow crystals inside have a tendency to organize. They settle. Some crystals align. Some patterns emerge. Now imagine that snow globe is shaking for 100 million years, and the molecules inside are reacting with each other, bonding, breaking apart, recombining. Some of those patterns would become self-sustaining. Some would evolve ways to make copies of themselves. That's not magic. That's chemistry reaching inevitability. Here's what's happening in your comfort right now. Scientists believe life began in shallow pools near hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, or maybe in tide pools. The exact location isn't certain, but what's clear is that simple molecules found ways to organize into increasingly complex patterns. Some of those patterns could copy themselves. Once you have something that can copy itself, you have life, because now you have variation and inheritance and selection. The first living things weren't cells as we'd recognize them. They were probably something simpler molecules that could replicate themselves, RNA strands that could catalyze their own copying. This is a mind-blown moment. Your life depends on RNA. Your genetic code is written in DNA, but DNA is an inactive, stable copy. When your cells need to make proteins, they copy the gene into RNA, and that RNA carries out the instruction. We think life might have started with RNA molecules that were both the information and the reactor. Life and instruction, all in one. Over hundreds of millions of years, these self-replicating molecules became more sophisticated. They enclosed themselves in fatty membranes. They developed specialized parts. They became cells. And once cells existed, evolution could really begin in earnest. Let me give you a genuinely comforting fact. Scientists have found that the earliest evidence of life on Earth dates to about 3.8 billion years ago. Fossils of single-celled bacteria. And from there, for billions of years, life stayed simple. Single cells, no complexity, just bacteria and archaea in the oceans, processing chemicals, spreading across the planet, getting used to different environments. This is meditation-level comfort right here. Evolution doesn't rush. Life took 1 billion years, before it got any more complicated than bacteria. Here's what will make you sleep like the fossil record. If life has been on Earth for 3.8 billion years, and bacteria was the only life for 3 billion of those years, then complexity is rare. Cells are relatively new to the existence of life. Dinosaurs are new. Humans are brand new. We're the latest expression of life, and we should feel honored that we're here at all. Because getting here took more time than you can possibly comprehend. Think of it like this. Imagine you're born, and you live for 100 years. That's the scope of human experience. Now imagine something living for 3.8 billion years, starting with nothing but chemicals and energy, building itself into you. That's evolution. That's what created you from nothing but physics and time. And here's something that really is profound. The atoms that make up your body are literally the same atoms that were in that primordial ocean where life began. Some of those exact atoms, cycled through countless forms, through bacteria, through fish, through dinosaurs, through mammals, and now they're in you. You're not made of new materials. You're made of earth material that's been alive many times before. So let that settle on you now. Your existence isn't an accident. You're the inevitable result of 4 billion years of chemistry and patience. Every atom in your body has proven itself capable of supporting life. Every gene in your code has been tested by evolution itself. You're not lucky to be alive. You're the most likely thing that could have happened, given enough time. And that should feel amazing. For billions of years, life was invisible. You couldn't see it without a microscope. Single-celled organisms dominated Earth. And then, suddenly, everything changed. Not suddenly in a human sense. Suddenly in a geological sense, which meant it took a few million years instead of hundreds of millions. This is called the Cambrian explosion, and it's one of the most profound moments in the history of life. About 541 million years ago, something shifted. The oceans became more oxygenated. Maybe. The climate changed. The rules of the game modified just slightly. And when the rules modified, life responded with creativity that's still mind-blowing to contemplate. Before the Cambrian period, most life looked similar single-celled blobs, or simple multi-celled organisms that were basically just sheets of cells with no particular structure. Then, in a period of about 25 million years, Almost every major body plan of animal life that exists today made its first appearance in the fossil record. Arthropods with exoskeletons, mollusks, early fish, sponges, worms. It's like life suddenly realized, oh, I can do so much more with this bodybuilding thing. I can make eyes, I can make armor, I can make predators. This was historically confusing to scientists. How could all this diversity appear so suddenly? Wasn't evolution supposed to be gradual? And here's where understanding evolution actually becomes relaxing. The Cambrian explosion wasn't sudden in time. It was sudden in geological terms. We're talking about 25 million years. That's how long it would take for 1/3 of evolution to redesign Earth's animals. To you and me, that's an eternity. To the Earth, that's nothing. And that's the key insight. Evolution is patient beyond human comprehension, but it's also capable of profound creativity when the conditions are right. Here's a mind-blown moment. The organisms that appeared in the Cambrian explosion, many of them went extinct. Most, actually. Organisms with body plans we don't see anymore. Weird, alien-looking creatures that tried different solutions to the problem of being alive. The famous fossil site, called the Burgess Shale, discovered by Charles Walcott in 1909, preserved thousands of these creatures from 505 million years ago. When paleontologists studied them, they found something extraordinary. Many of these animals were bizarre. They didn't fit neatly into any modern category. Think of it like this. If you were an engineer and someone asked you to design an animal that could move through water, sense prey, and catch it, you might design something like a fish. That's efficient. That's elegant. But early evolution didn't know that yet. So life designed thousands of different solutions. Some worked, most didn't. The ones that worked stuck around. The ones that didn't became fossils and then went extinct. And millions of years later, you're studying them and thinking, well, that was a weird design choice. But here's what should genuinely comfort you. Failure is essential to evolution. The fact that so many body plans went extinct means evolution was being creative. It was trying things. And when something doesn't work, it fails and disappears, but it makes room for what does work. You in your current form are the product of millions of failed experiments. Evolution tried countless ways to be human and discarded them all until it got to you. Now let me give you a fact that connects you directly to that ancient ocean. Every animal alive today, including you, can trace its ancestry back through the Cambrian explosion. You are descended from whatever creatures survived that explosion and passed on their genes. Your body plan, head, trunk, limbs, nervous system, that's a solution that was discovered in that explosion and refined ever since. You're using a blueprint that's over 500 million years old. When you sleep, your body uses the same basic systems that a Cambrian creature used to move through ancient oceans. Evolution refined those systems, but the core architecture is ancient beyond measure. Here's what's peaceful about that. You don't have to reinvent yourself. Your body already has solutions to every problem of being alive. You inherited them. You didn't have to figure out how to digest food or process oxygen or sense light. Billions of years of evolutionary problem solving has already worked that out. Your body is a miracle of inherited solutions. And think about this. In the Cambrian explosion, life diversified explosively because it had new possibilities. Eyes evolved. Predators appeared. Prey needed to develop defenses. The whole dance of predator and prey, the whole ecology of life as we know it, began in that explosion. And everything from that moment on, every fish, every dinosaur, every mammal, every human is part of that original creative spark. Let that settle as you listen. You're not an accident. You're not even a mistake. You're a refined, tested, improved version of creatures that survived the most creatively explosive moment in life's history. Your ancestors made it through that explosion. They made it through ice ages and asteroid impacts and competition so fierce that millions of species fell away. And here you are, the latest link in an unbroken chain going back 500 million years. That should make you feel secure. Let's talk about dinosaurs now, because understanding dinosaurs is actually one of the most relaxing things you can do. Dinosaurs were not monsters. Dinosaurs were evolution's playground for 165 million years. That's longer than humans have existed by a factor of 300. Here's what we know from the fossil record. The first dinosaurs appeared around 230 million years ago, during a period called the Triassic. They were small at first. Smaller than you'd think. Some were the size of dogs. They were just another type of reptile, competing in a world full of reptiles, doing okay, but not spectacularly. And then something happened. The climate shifted. Other reptiles went extinct, and dinosaurs found a niche. They started getting bigger. They started diversifying. And for the next 165 million years, they dominated Earth. Think of it like this. The dinosaur era lasted 165 million years. Humans have been around for 300,000 years. That means the dinosaur era is 550 times longer than all of human history. If you compress human history into 1 second, dinosaurs ruled for 9 minutes. Does that not just blow your mind? We think of dinosaurs as ancient, but ancient to us is ancient to dinosaurs like next Tuesday is to us. And here's what should genuinely relax you. Most dinosaurs weren't T-Rexes. Most dinosaurs were plant eaters. Most dinosaurs were probably slower and more peaceful than a modern elephant. Sure, there were predators. But predators are a minority in any ecosystem. Most creatures are just trying to eat and survive and have babies and pass on their genes. That was true 100 million years ago, just as much as it's true now. Let me introduce you to a real scientist who studied dinosaurs. Dr. Jack Horner, one of the most important paleontologists alive, has spent decades studying dinosaur fossils and making discoveries that changed how we understand these creatures. In his research, Horner found that many dinosaurs, including T-Rex, were probably not solitary hunters. They likely lived in herds. They likely cared for their young. They likely had complex social structures. A T-Rex wasn't a mindless monster. It was an intelligent predator with a family life and social bonds. Here's a mind-blown moment. We now know that dinosaurs didn't go extinct and leave no descendants. Dinosaurs still exist. Birds are dinosaurs. When you see a chicken or a pigeon or a crow, you're looking at a dinosaur. The genes are continuous. The body plan has changed, evolved into something smaller and with feathers, but the connection is direct. There's an unbroken line from T-Rex to your backyard robin. Evolution just refined the form over millions of years. Think of it like this. A T-Rex evolved into birds. That sounds incredible, right? But it makes perfect sense. T-Rexes had hollow bones. They had 3-toed feet. They had some feathers on their body. Some scientists think they evolved feathers for insulation or for showing off to mates. But once they had feathers, well, hey, some of those creatures found that if they leapt really high, they could glide a little bit. And if you can glide, you can eventually fly. And once you can fly, you're a bird. It took millions of years, but it happened. And here's what should make you drift into peace. The reason dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago wasn't because they were failures. It wasn't because evolution phased them out. They went extinct because a massive asteroid hit Earth. The asteroid was about 10 kilometers wide. It hit in what's now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact created a tsunami and an earthquake and a massive explosion. It ejected so much dust and ash into the atmosphere that the sun was blocked out for months. Plants died. Herbivores starved. Predators had no prey. The entire food chain collapsed. Most animals died, but not all. Small creatures with low metabolic rates survived. Mammals, which had been small and hidden in the shadows while dinosaurs ruled, survived. And once dinosaurs were gone, mammals could diversify. Mammals got bigger. Mammals spread across the continents. Mammals eventually became you. So in a way, you exist because of an asteroid. You exist because evolution is resilient enough to recover Eden from catastrophe. Think of it like this. 5 times in Earth's history, there have been what scientists call mass extinction events. The dinosaurs died in one, but 3 others happened before them. Each time, 90% or more of life died, and each time, life recovered. It evolved new forms. It filled the empty niches. It created new ecosystems. Life is remarkably hard to kill permanently. And we're living in the aftermath of the most recent mass extinction recovery. The recovery from the asteroid 66 million years ago. This should genuinely relax you. Evolution is incredibly resilient. Life is almost impossible to destroy completely. No matter what catastrophe happens, life finds a way. Life adapts. Life continues. The same principle that created dinosaurs, that created mammals, that created you, is so robust that it survived 5 mass extinction events and countless smaller disasters. You're the product of the most durable system in the universe. You're not fragile. You're ancient, tested, and proven. And here's a personal connection moment. The same genes that controlled a T-Rex's brain control your brain. The same basic neurotransmitters. The same emotional systems. When a mother T-Rex cared for her babies, she was using a brain system that comes down to you. Your capacity to love, to care, to form bonds that evolved in dinosaurs. You have a dinosaur brain, refined and expanded, but dinosaur at its core. You're more connected to those creatures than you might have ever imagined. So let that settle. Dinosaurs aren't gone. They evolved. They're in your cells right now in the form of birds. They're in your brain in the form of emotional systems that let you care about others. Evolution isn't about endings. It's about transformations. Nothing really disappears. It just becomes something new. Let's get intimate here. Let's talk about your specific body, not as an abstract concept, but as a product of evolution. Because when you understand why you have the body you have, you understand something profoundly calming about existence. You're not an accident. You're a solution. You have 2 eyes, not 1, not 3, 2. Why? Because your ancestors were predators who hunted other animals. Predators need to judge distance, so they developed forward-facing eyes that gave them binocular vision. Your fish ancestors had eyes on the sides of their heads. But when they came onto land and became hunters, they evolved eyes in the front. That gave them depth perception. Now, millions of years later, you have those eyes. You can judge distance because your ancestors were good hunters. Here's another mind-blown moment. You have an appendix. That useless-seeming organ in your gut? That's the remnant of an evolutionary adaptation. Your plant-eating ancestors had a much larger cecum, a part of the large intestine that could ferment plants, breaking down cellulose so they could digest vegetation. As your ancestors became omnivores, and then primarily meat-eaters, that organ shrunk. But it didn't disappear completely. Now you have an appendix. A tiny, mostly useless version of something that was once essential. It's like evolution couldn't quite delete it, so it just left a comment in your genetic code. Hey, remember when this was important? Yeah, we don't need it anymore, but it's still here. Think of it like this. Your body is like a computer that's been updated thousands of times. Your hardware has old code running on it because that code was essential when it was written, and nobody bothered to delete it. Some of it still works fine. Some of it causes problems occasionally, like appendicitis. But it's all part of your evolutionary history. You also have a coccyx. That's your tailbone. 4 fused vertebrae that serve almost no function in humans. You don't have a tail, but your primate ancestors did. Many mammals have tails for balance and communication. Your evolutionary line gradually lost the tail because upright walking bipedalism made tails less useful. But we kept the tailbone, fused and hidden. a fossil within your living body. Every time you sit down, you're sitting on evolutionary history. Here's another example. Your inner ear contains 3 tiny bones called the hammer, anvil, and stirrup. These bones transmit sound vibrations from your eardrum to the cochlea. These bones are incredibly important for hearing. But here's the mind-blown part. They evolved from jaw bones. Your earliest fish ancestors didn't have ear bones at all, but they had jaw bones. And somewhere along the evolutionary line, some of those jaw bones were repurposed into hearing bones. Your hearing apparatus contains recycled jaw bones from fish ancestors that lived 300 million years ago. That's not just efficient, that's elegant. Evolution isn't designing from scratch. It's working with what it has and repurposing it. Dr. Neil Shubin, a paleontologist and evolutionary biologist, has done extraordinary research showing that human bodies are basically modified versions of fish bodies. In his book, Your Inner Fish, he demonstrates how your hands evolved from fish fins, how your neck evolved from fish structures, how your ear bones evolved from fish jaws. When you understand that your body is basically a fish that's been modified to live on land and adapted for intelligence, you realize you're not separate from nature. You are nature, just in a different form. Here's a genuinely comforting fact. Your body is an astonishingly efficient piece of engineering. Every system serves multiple purposes. Your spine supports your weight and protects your spinal cord and provides structure for your muscles. Your blood vessels deliver oxygen and nutrients and also help regulate temperature. Your hormones control mood and growth and metabolism all simultaneously. This isn't accidental. This is the result of millions of years of refinement. Evolution doesn't waste. It optimizes. Your body is optimized. Think of it like this. Engineers spend years designing a product to be as efficient as possible. Evolution has spent millions of years optimizing you. Your body is more sophisticated than any machine humans have ever built because it had to compete with actual life for billions of years. It had to survive predators, find food, reproduce, adapt to changing climates. It had to do all of that while also being self-repairing and self-maintaining. No machine can do that. Only life can. And you are the current expression of that machine. Here's something that will make you feel genuinely peaceful. Your immune system is so sophisticated that it can recognize millions of different pathogens and remember them for your entire life. You don't have to relearn immunity. Millions of years ago, when your ancestors first encountered bacteria, they developed ways to remember that bacteria and fight it more efficiently next time. Now you inherit that capacity. Your body knows how to fight thousands of threats it's never even seen because your ancestors fought them and passed on the memory encoded in your genes. And here's a mind-blown moment about consciousness. Your brain contains about 86 billion neurons. Each neuron can connect to thousands of other neurons. That's trillions of potential connections. Your brain is the most complex object in the known universe. Not the most complex created by humans. The most complex, period. And you have it because your ancestors needed to solve increasingly complex problems. Finding food, avoiding predators, raising young, navigating social hierarchies. Each generation needed slightly more intelligence, and evolution delivered. Over millions of years, brains got bigger. Brains got more complex. And now you have a brain that can contemplate its own existence. So here's what should relax you as you listen. You're not flawed. You're not a mistake. You're not an accident of nature. You're a solution. Your body is the answer evolution came up with to the question, how can we live as a bipedal, intelligent mammal on planet Earth? And the answer is you, perfectly adapted to being human in this moment in time. Every part of you, even the parts that seem useless, tell a story of your evolutionary history. And that story is ancient, tested, and beautiful. Now we're getting into the deepest water, and it should be the most relaxing. Because understanding why you're conscious is understanding something profound about existence itself. Consciousness is weird. You know it exists in yourself. You know you're aware. You're experiencing this moment right now. But how did it come to exist? Why does evolution build consciousness? That's one of the great mysteries. And here's what's beautiful about it. We're starting to understand, and the answer is more peaceful than you'd think. Let's start simple. Why would evolution ever create feeling? Pain seems helpful. It tells you to avoid dangers. But why does pain have to feel bad? Evolution could have just created a reflex. A hand touches fire. The hand pulls back. No feeling necessary. But it doesn't work that way. Instead, you experience agony. Why? Because evolution discovered that feeling makes you better at learning. If pain is felt deeply, you learn to avoid it more effectively. Your amygdala, the part of your brain that processes emotion, releases neurochemicals that strengthen the memory of painful experiences. You don't just learn intellectually that fire is dangerous. You feel it, and that emotional stamp makes the learning permanent. Think of it like this. A creature that just has reflexes pull hand back from fire immediately. That's pretty good. But a creature that also feels pain and remembers it emotionally, that's better. It won't even get close to fire because it remembers how bad it felt. Evolution selected for feeling because feeling creates better learning. Once evolution had discovered feeling, once brains started creating emotional experiences, something extraordinary happened. Feeling started to propagate. Not just pain, pleasure, touch, connection, the reward system. Dopamine, the neurochemical that makes you feel pleasure, evolved in very simple organisms. Bacteria have something like it. But as brains got more complex, the reward system got more sophisticated. And eventually, it became consciousness. Here's a mind-blown moment that connects you to everything. Consciousness might not be unique to humans, or even to mammals. There's evidence that birds have consciousness. They recognize themselves in mirrors. They plan for the future. They remember individual humans. They have distinct personalities. Octopuses are incredibly intelligent and seem to have consciousness, even though their brains evolved completely separately from ours. They've never shared a common ancestor with us since early forms millions of years ago. Yet they evolved intelligence and probably consciousness anyway. What that suggests is profound. Consciousness isn't a rare accident. Consciousness is something life evolves when it gets complex enough and needs to problem solve in flexible ways. It's not a miracle. It's a tool. It's evolution's solution to the question, how can we process information about the world and make flexible decisions about what to do? Here's what Dr. Antonio Damasio, a neuroscientist who studied emotion and consciousness, discovered. Consciousness is built on feeling. Emotion isn't separate from cognition. Emotion is the foundation of cognition. You can't think well without feeling. Your emotions guide your thinking. Your intuitions are incredibly fast pattern recognition systems that have evolved over millions of years. When something feels wrong, your body is processing millions of data points from your past experience at a speed faster than conscious thought. Your feelings are ancient intelligence speaking through modern hardware. Think of it like this. Your conscious mind, the part you think of as you, that's making decisions and talking right now, that part is actually pretty slow. It takes time to consciously think through something. But your emotional system, your intuitive system, that's incredibly fast. It evolved first. Your conscious mind evolved on top of it, like a commentator on a live event that's already happening. You feel the feeling first, then you become conscious of it. Then you construct a narrative about why you felt it. You're not in charge of your emotions. Your emotions are in charge, and your conscious mind just narrates what's happening. And here's what should genuinely comfort you. That system works beautifully. It's been tested for millions of years. Your intuitions are generally good. Your emotions generally guide you toward things that help you survive and reproduce and be happy. Evolution has been training your emotional system for longer than language has existed. Trust it. Your gut feeling is evolutionary wisdom. Here's a personal connection moment that will change how you think about yourself. You are not your conscious mind. You are a biological system that evolved consciousness as a tool. You are the evolution of matter from stars into complexity, into feeling, into thought. Your consciousness is the universe becoming aware of itself through billions of years of living evolution. You're not separate from nature experiencing nature. You are nature, conscious of itself. Think about that, not as a philosophical idea, but as a biological fact. The atoms that make up your body were forged in stars. They organized into increasingly complex forms. They developed feeling. They developed consciousness. Now they're conscious of being conscious. They're aware that they're aware. That's the universe doing something it's never done before in such concentrated form. Each time a human thinks about their own thinking, the universe is reflecting on itself. Here's another mind-blown moment. Humans might be relatively new to consciousness, but consciousness itself is ancient. Dinosaurs probably had consciousness. Not like ours, but they had feeling, emotion, awareness. That capacity was already developing 100 million years ago. Your consciousness is not new. It's an ancient capacity, refined and expanded through millions of years of evolution. And this is where it gets genuinely peaceful. You don't have to earn consciousness. You already have it. It's not something you achieve through effort. It's something you inherited. Billions of years of life working toward more complex awareness have handed you the most complex awareness possible. You're not responsible for developing consciousness. It's already there. Your job is just to use it, experience it, and let it guide you toward what matters. So as you settle into sleep, know this. Your awareness right now is the product of 4 billion years of evolution. Your ability to think, to feel, to reflect, to wonder, that's not accidental. That's an ancient tool that life developed because it works. It helps you live better. It helps you connect with other conscious beings. It helps you understand that you're part of something bigger than yourself. And that should be the most relaxing knowledge of all. Let me tell you something that might seem strange, but it's absolutely true and incredibly peaceful. You share ancestors with everything alive, not just mammals, not just animals, everything. You're related to plants. You're related to fungi. You're related to bacteria. You have a family tree that includes every living organism on Earth. How far back do you have to go to find a common ancestor with a plant? About 1.5 billion years. At that point, there was a common ancestor that eventually split into the line that became animals and the line that became plants. You diverged in different directions, but you came from the same living system. Your cousins with carrots. Your distant cousins with oak trees. Here's a mind-blown moment. You share the same basic cellular machinery with plants. You both use mitochondria to convert food into energy. Plants have been using the same basic system for over 1 billion years. You inherited it. You're using technology that plants discovered when humans didn't even exist yet. And that technology is still working fine. Think of it like this. Imagine a very old recipe for bread. It's been used for thousands of years. It's been passed down through countless generations. Different people have modified it slightly. Some added different grains. Some changed the temperature or time. But the core recipe is the same. Now, that bread is so good that people still make it, and it's still delicious. That's what your cells are like. They're using an ancient recipe for how to be alive that plants discovered billions of years ago. The recipe is so good, it still works. With bacteria, your relationship is even deeper. About 3.5 billion years ago, there was a single-celled organism that divided. Some descendants went one way, some went another. Over billions of years, one line became more complex and eventually became animals. The other line became modern bacteria. You and bacteria share that ancestor. You are a modified version of bacteria. Your cells are basically bacteria that learn to specialize and work together. Here's something that will genuinely relax you. Bacteria are still here. They didn't go extinct. They didn't fail. There are more bacterial cells on Earth than human cells. Bacteria are everywhere, doing exactly what they do. And some of them are in your body right now. Your gut bacteria, your skin bacteria. They're not invaders. They're partners. You and bacteria co-evolved. You created a relationship with them millions of years ago, and we're still living in that relationship. Your health depends on them. Your digestion depends on them. You can't be human without bacteria. Think of it like this. You're not an individual organism. You're an ecosystem. You're a walking, talking ecosystem of human cells and bacterial cells living in cooperation. You're not separate from bacteria. You're bacteria that evolved complexity and consciousness while also maintaining a partnership with bacteria that stayed simple. It's actually beautiful. You're proof that evolution can produce cooperation, not just competition. Dr. Carl Woese, a pioneering microbiologist, made one of the most important discoveries in biology. Life can be divided into three main domains: bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotes, which includes you, plants, fungi, and animals. Before Woese, people thought there was just bacteria and everything else. But Woese showed that archaea was a completely separate lineage from bacteria, equally ancient, equally important. This expanded our understanding of life's family tree. We realized we're on a much more crowded branch than we thought. Here's a fact that should make you feel less alone. Archaea live in some of the most extreme environments on Earth. Boiling hot springs, frozen tundra, deep ocean vents. Archaea are life in its most resilient form. And your cells use some of the same machinery as archaea. You're descended from organisms that learn to live in Earth's harshest conditions. You inherited that toughness. Now here's a genuinely mind-blowing moment. About 1.5 billion years ago, something extraordinary happened. A bacterium was engulfed by another cell. Instead of being digested, it survived inside. Over millions of years, that bacterium lost its independence and became an organelle. It became a mitochondrion. Your cells have these ancient bacteria inside them, still doing what they do, converting food into energy. That event, called endosymbiosis, was so successful that it happened again. Photosynthetic bacteria were engulfed by cells, and they became chloroplasts. That's why plants can photosynthesize. They're running an ancient bacterial program inside their cells. Think of it like this. Your cells are basically Russian nesting dolls. You have a membrane. Inside that, you have organelles that are basically ancient bacteria that are still doing their job. Those bacteria have been in your family for over 1 billion years. Your mitochondria are more ancient than dinosaurs. They're older than animals. They're so old that they have their own DNA. They're so old and important that they're essential to your existence. You literally cannot live without them. And here's what should genuinely relax you. This shows that evolution isn't just about competition. Evolution produced symbiosis, cooperation, one organism taking in another organism and both of them benefiting. That's how you got eukaryotic cells. That's how you got to be alive. Evolution discovered cooperation as a solution to survival, and you're living proof that cooperation works. So as you listen to this, know this, you're not alone. You're not an individual. You're a collective. You're a cooperation between human consciousness and billions of cells and trillions of bacteria, all working together to create the experience of being you. You're proof that life works better together than apart. Your evolution's answer to the question, what can we create if we learn to cooperate? That should be the most peaceful knowledge. You're not fighting for survival. You're a cooperation that's been refined for billions of years. Every cell in your body is cooperating with every other cell, and they're cooperating with bacteria. And you're cooperating with plants that make oxygen and with the sun that makes energy. You're part of the most complex cooperation network the universe has ever produced. And that cooperation is running smoothly right now, in this moment, keeping you alive and aware. I want to talk now about something that will genuinely shift how you think about yourself. Adaptation. Because adaptation is evolution's answer to the question, how do we make something that works really, really well in this specific situation? Take your eyes, for example. Humans have excellent color vision. We can see 3 different types of color receptors. Red, green, blue. That's pretty good. But it's not the best in the animal kingdom. Some birds have 4 color receptors. Some insects have 5. We're not the peak of vision. We're just well adapted to seeing the world like a human should. But here's the beautiful part. We're adapted well enough. We can see well enough to live. We can see well enough to thrive. We evolved color vision because our primate ancestors lived in forests and needed to find fruit among green leaves. The ability to see ripe fruit against green foliage was valuable. So evolution emphasized that. Our primate ancestors developed trichromatic vision 3 colors. And we inherited that. Think of it like this. Evolution isn't trying to make the perfect eye. Evolution is trying to make an eye that's good enough for your specific lifestyle. For humans, excellent color vision is valuable. For dolphins, color vision is almost useless because the ocean is a limited color environment. So dolphins' eyes are adapted for seeing movement and depth in blue water. Not color. They have 1 or 2 color receptors. They sacrificed color vision for motion detection. Here's a mind-blown moment. This shows something profound. Evolution isn't trying to create universal perfection. Evolution is creating specific solutions for specific problems. And that should relax you, because it means you don't have to be universally perfect. You just have to be good enough for being human. Dr. Richard Lewontin, a legendary evolutionary biologist, once made an observation that changed how scientists think about adaptation. He noticed that evolution doesn't always create the optimal solution to a problem. Sometimes evolution creates a good enough solution that happens to be easy to build given the constraints of biology. Your eyes aren't perfect. Your ears aren't perfect. Your bones aren't perfect. But they work. They're good enough, and that's actually how life works. Not with universal optimization, but with good enough solutions that happen to be easy to build with the biological tools available. Here's what that means for you. You're not broken because you're not perfect. You're perfectly adapted to being a human. You have the exact amount of vision you need, the exact amount of hearing, the exact amount of pain sensitivity, the exact amount of immune response. Evolution fine-tuned all of it to work for you. And here's another mind-blown moment. Humans are adapted for running. Long-distance running. We're not the fastest sprinters. Cheetahs are, but humans can run for hours in the heat. We shed heat efficiently. Our legs are built for endurance. Our ancestors hunted by chasing prey until the prey got tired and overheated. We're adapted for persistence hunting. We can walk or run for 50 kilometers if we need to. That's not common in primates. Most primates get tired quickly, but we don't. We're built for distance. And that adaptation made us successful hunters for millions of years. Think of it like this. Evolution gave us what we needed to survive as hunter-gatherers. Good endurance running. Good dexterity for making tools. Good intelligence for planning and cooperation. And then, very recently in evolutionary terms, we created civilization. We created agriculture and cities and technology. And now we're trying to use a hunter-gatherer body to live a modern lifestyle. That's why we have problems. Not because our bodies are wrong. Our bodies are perfectly adapted. We're just in an environment they weren't designed for. Here's something comforting. Your body isn't malfunctioning. Your modern struggles, stress, poor diet, sedentary lifestyle, these aren't problems with your body. These are mismatches between your adapted body and your modern environment. And that's actually good news, because it means you can fix it. You don't need to change your body. You need to change your environment to match what your body evolved for. And here's another adaptation fact that's amazing. Humans are incredibly adaptable to different environments. We live in deserts. We live in mountains. We live in Arctic regions. We live in tropical rainforests. We're one of the few species that can thrive in almost any environment on Earth. How? Because we evolved intelligence and technology. That's our adaptation. Instead of evolving thick fur for cold, we evolved the ability to make clothes. Instead of evolving big feet for sand, we evolved the ability to make vehicles. We adapted by becoming intelligent and creative. That's a mind-blown moment right there. Your biggest evolutionary advantage isn't your physical form. It's your brain. Your capacity for abstract thought. Your capacity for language and culture and technology. You're adapted for learning. You're adapted for solving problems. You're adapted for creating solutions that suit your environment. That's so much better than being adapted for one specific thing, because now you can adapt to anything. Here's what should genuinely relax you. You're not stuck with your current limitations. Humans can learn. Humans can change. Evolution built you with the capacity to overcome your own biology through creativity and technology. You're not a fixed thing. You're a work in progress. And that's not a flaw. That's your greatest strength. So as you listen, know this. You're perfectly adapted for being you, not for being someone else. Not for being something else, for being human. For thinking and feeling and creating and connecting. Those are your superpowers. Evolution gave you exactly what you need to thrive, and it also gave you the ability to imagine something better and create it. That's the gift of being human. We're approaching the deepest part of this journey now, and I want you to understand something that might seem grandiose, but is actually scientifically precise. You are not just in the universe. You are the universe. You are a part of it that has become conscious of itself. Let me trace this back. In the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang, the entire universe existed as infinite density in a single point. All the matter, all the energy that exists anywhere, was contained in something infinitely small. And then it expanded. It cooled. Protons and neutrons formed. Then atoms, then molecules. Then after 13.8 billion years of transformation, some of that original matter organized itself into you. The atoms that make up your body, every single one came from that original Big Bang. They have been cycling through the universe since. Some of them spent time in stars. Some in supernova. Some in the void between galaxies. And now they're all gathered here, in your body, organized in such a way that they're conscious. Think of it like this. You are made of the stuff of creation itself, organized by time and evolution into something that can think. Your consciousness is the universe becoming aware. Your thoughts are what the universe does when it organizes matter into a sufficiently complex pattern. You're not separate from the universe experiencing it. You're the universe experiencing itself. Here's a mind-blown moment. Every single atom in your body is billions of years old. Some are older than our solar system. Some have been alive in countless forms. A calcium atom in your bones might have been in a dinosaur. It might have been in a plant. It might have been in an ocean. And now it's in you. It's experiencing consciousness through you. That atom is so old, so tried and tested by the universe, that it's a miracle it exists at all. Dr. Carl Sagan, one of the greatest communicators of science who ever lived, said something that should sink deep into your soul right now. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself. He wasn't being poetic. He was being literal. You are stardust that has learned to know itself. You are the cosmos made conscious. Think about that, not as metaphor, as fact. The iron in your blood was made in a star. The calcium in your bones was made in a star. The oxygen you breathe came from a star. You can't exist without star-forged elements. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are the cosmos. And here's what's genuinely peaceful about that. You are not alone in existence. You are not a fragile biological accident in a cold, uncaring universe. You are the universe knowing itself. Every moment of your consciousness is the universe experiencing existence through your eyes, your thoughts, your feelings. You are infinitely more connected to everything than you ever imagined. Here's another mind-blown moment. Time is not as linear as you think. When you look at a star light years away, you're seeing light that left that star years ago. You're looking at the past, but that light is real. It's traveling through space right now, and you're receiving it. In a sense, you're touching that star across the billions of years. You're connected to distant stars through the light they send. You're part of a network of light and matter that spans the entire universe. And quantum physics gets even weirder. At the quantum level, particles are connected to each other in ways that seem to defy space and distance. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. Now we call it quantum entanglement. Particles that came from the same source remain connected even across vast distances. When you measure one particle, it instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. What that means is that you might be entangled with particles across the universe, not just metaphorically, possibly literally at the quantum level. You are connected to the furthest reaches of the universe through a connection that physics is still trying to understand. Think of it like this. You are not a closed system. You are an open system that is continuously exchanging energy and matter with the universe. You eat food. That's plants and animals that were part of the ecosystem. You breathe air. That's oxygen created by plants and photosynthesis that evolved billions of years ago. You emit heat. That's energy flowing back to the universe. You are continuously dissolving into the universe and continuously being reformed from it. You are not separate. You are a pattern, a temporary organization of universal matter and energy into a shape that calls itself human. Here's what should genuinely comfort you. You don't have to be separate. You don't have to be alone. You're already connected. The entire universe is already inside you in the form of atoms. The entire history of the universe is inside you in the form of genes that evolved from the first life. Your consciousness is a gift from billions of years of creation. And here's the final mind-blown moment of this section. When you die, you don't disappear. Your matter will be recycled. The atoms that make up your body will become soil, plants, animals, other humans. Your energy will return to the universe. A pattern that is, you will dissolve, but the matter will continue. And the influence you had, the love you shared, the children you raised, the ideas you spread, those will continue to shape the universe long after you're gone. You are not ending when you die. You are transforming. You are returning to the universe in the same way that every star eventually dies and spreads its matter across space to form new stars. You are part of an eternal cycle. You are a temporary expression of eternal matter. And that is the most profound piece there is. We've talked about consciousness arising from evolution, but now I want to talk about how consciousness itself is evolving, because that's where we are right now. We're at a point where evolution is starting to happen in a way it's never happened before. For billions of years, evolution worked through genetic mutation and natural selection. Random changes in DNA and the changes that helped survival spread through populations. It took millions of years to make significant changes. But humans changed that. We changed how evolution works. Consider agriculture. 10,000 years ago, humans started farming. What that meant was that for the first time, a species was intentionally selecting which organisms survived and reproduced. We domesticated wheat, rice, corn. We selected for the plants that had bigger seeds, better taste, easier harvest. In just 10,000 years, which is a blink in evolutionary time, we created new varieties of these plants that no longer even resemble their wild ancestors. We did in 10,000 years what evolution might have taken 1,000,000 years to do. And we did the same with animals. We domesticated cattle, sheep, dogs, horses. We selected for traits we found valuable. A cow that produces more milk, a sheep with better wool, a dog with a friendly temperament. In just a few thousand years, we created variations that are so different from their wild ancestors that we wouldn't recognize them as the same species if we didn't know better. Think of it like this. Humans became agents of evolution. We didn't understand genetics. We didn't understand natural selection. But we understood that if you breed organisms with desired traits, their offspring will have those traits. So we did it. We became evolution, operating at human speed instead of geological speed. Here's a mind-blown moment. Now we can see what we're doing. We understand genetics. We understand DNA, and now we're editing it directly. CRISPR is a technology that lets us find specific genes and change them. For the first time in history, we can edit the code of life itself, not by breeding, but by directly cutting and pasting genes. We can change evolution. We can become conscious architects of evolution instead of unconscious agents. Dr. Jennifer Doudna, one of the inventors of CRISPR technology, has spoken about the profound responsibility that comes with this power. We can edit human genes now. We can prevent genetic diseases. We can, theoretically, enhance human capabilities. We can make ourselves smarter or stronger or more disease-resistant. For the first time in history, evolution is becoming conscious. The process that created us is becoming aware of itself and gaining the ability to direct itself. And that's not science fiction. That's happening right now. Right now, scientists are using CRISPR to edit genes in human embryos, carefully, with lots of ethical debate. But it's happening. Evolution is waking up to consciousness. The universe's unconscious process of creating complexity is becoming aware of itself and learning to direct its own development. Think about that. The same process that took 4 billion years to create you is now aware of itself. It's aware that it's happening, and it can choose to speed it up or slow it down or change direction. That's extraordinary. Here's another layer. Culture and language are also forms of evolution now. We don't have to wait for genetic mutation to spread a beneficial trait. We can teach it. We can share ideas. Someone learns something useful, and they can teach it to thousands of people instantly through the internet. That's evolution happening at the speed of communication instead of at genetic speed. Think of it like this. Genetic evolution is slow because DNA replicates slowly. Cultural evolution is fast because ideas replicate fast. Your parents taught you ideas. They learned from their parents, who learned from their parents. You learn ideas from books and teachers and the internet. You spread ideas to others. Ideas are replicating and mutating and competing for space in human brains, just like genes compete for space in DNA. And artificial intelligence is the next frontier. We're creating machine intelligence that can process information faster than biological brains. Machine learning algorithms that can discover patterns in data that humans would take centuries to find. We're creating tools that extend human cognition. We're creating minds that think at machine speed, which is much faster than human speed. What does this mean? It means evolution is accelerating. It means the universe's process of creating complexity is speeding up. What took millions of years through genetic mutation now takes years through scientific discovery. What took years through scientific discovery now takes days through artificial intelligence. We're creating a recursive loop where intelligence is creating more intelligence faster and faster. Dr. Ray Kurzweil has called this the singularity, the point where artificial intelligence becomes so sophisticated that it can improve itself, creating even more sophisticated intelligence, which improves itself again in a cycle of exponential acceleration. We don't know if that will happen, but the direction is clear. Intelligence is accelerating. Consciousness is expanding. The universe is becoming more aware of itself at an exponential rate. And here's what's genuinely peaceful about this. You are part of that acceleration. You are part of the universe becoming conscious of itself. Your consciousness isn't an endpoint. It's a waypoint. You are part of a process that's becoming more conscious, more aware, more capable with every generation. You're not the final form of intelligence. You're a link in an evolving chain that might lead to forms of consciousness we can't even imagine. Think of it like this. Dinosaurs couldn't imagine humans. They didn't have the cognitive capacity to conceive of a creature that would use tools and language and write books. Our intelligence is so far beyond theirs that they couldn't even understand it if they saw it. Now, imagine what an artificial superintelligence might be like. It might be so far beyond human intelligence that we can't even conceive of it. But it will probably emerge from human intelligence. Humans will create it. The universe will become more conscious through that creation. That's not scary. That's beautiful. That's evolution continuing. That's the process that created you now, creating something even more complex, which will create something even more complex. You're part of that cascade. And the most peaceful part? You don't have to be afraid of being left behind. Even if artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence, you're the origin. You're part of the creation process. Your genes, your ideas, your consciousness, they're all going to shape what comes next. You're not being replaced. You're being transcended. You're becoming something more. I want to talk now about something deeply personal, your significance. Because understanding evolution can make you feel small. You're just one of 8 billion humans, which is just one species on a medium-sized planet, orbiting a medium-sized star, in a medium-sized galaxy, in an incomprehensibly vast universe. You're tiny. You're insignificant. But here's what I want you to understand. Significance isn't about size. Significance is about uniqueness and impact. You are the most unique thing that has ever existed. Never before in the history of the universe has there been anyone exactly like you. Your consciousness is literally unprecedented. No human has ever had exactly your thoughts, with exactly your genes, in exactly your circumstances. You are an experiment that nature has never run before. You might never run again. You are absolutely singular. Think of it like this. Every atom in the universe has been recycled countless times. But the arrangement of atoms that is you, that arrangement is unique. It has never existed before. It might never exist again. You are a one-time only pattern of matter and energy and consciousness. That makes you infinitely significant. And here's another perspective. You are the current carrier of a genetic lineage that is 3.8 billion years old. Your ancestors survived ice ages. They survived predators. They survived famines. They survived competition. They survived countless challenges that killed their contemporaries. And they survived because they had traits that made them slightly more likely to survive and reproduce than their competitors. You are the product of 4 billion years of success. You are made of the genes of survivors. Think about that. Every single one of your ancestors had to survive childhood and reproduce. That's not easy. Most organisms don't. Most die before reproducing. But your ancestors did it, over and over, for billions of years. And because they did, you exist. You are the result of an unbroken chain of successful lives, stretching back to the beginning of life itself. That's not insignificant. That's the opposite of insignificant. You're a miracle of accumulated success. Here's a mind-blown moment. Your parents had to meet. Your grandparents had to meet. Your great-grandparents had to meet. Stretch that back 1,000 generations, and the probability that you would exist is astronomically small. If your great-great-great-grandmother had chosen a different mate, you wouldn't exist. If your great-great-grandmother had decided to have one fewer child, you wouldn't exist. If your great-grandfather had walked down a different street one day and not met your great-grandmother, you wouldn't exist. The probability of your existence is essentially zero. And yet, here you are. That's not accident. That's not luck. That's the most unlikely and therefore most remarkable thing. You beat the odds that are literally incomprehensible. The universe lined up in exactly the right way to create you, and only you. This exact you, with your exact consciousness, your exact memories, your exact personality. Dr. Carl Sagan calculated the probability of a human existing given their parent meeting and found it to be about 1 in 400 quadrillion. That's not 400 million. That's 400 followed by 15 zeros. And that's just from your immediate parents. Stretch it back over your entire evolutionary lineage, and the number becomes so large it's meaningless. You shouldn't exist. And yet, you do. What that means is profoundly important. Your existence matters. Not because you're the biggest, or the strongest, or the most famous. Your existence matters because you're here. Because you exist. Because your consciousness exists. Because the universe, through billions of years of evolution, organized matter in such a way that it became you. And that's never happened before in exactly this way. Now, what do you do with that knowledge? That's the question that should guide your life. You've been given existence against incomprehensible odds. You've been given consciousness. You've been given the ability to understand where you came from. You've been given the ability to change the future. What do you do with it? Here's the beautiful part. You get to decide. Evolution gave you a brain capable of abstract thought. It gave you the ability to imagine futures that don't exist yet. It gave you the ability to create and build and love and teach. These are not things you have to do. These are things you can choose to do. And when you do them, you matter. Your love matters. Your kindness matters. Your creativity matters. Your teaching matters. Not because it changes the whole universe, but because it changes someone's world. You might teach someone something that they teach to someone else, and that knowledge spreads through the world in ways you never see. You might love someone in such a way that they become more capable of loving others. You might create something beautiful that someone finds in a dark moment and it gives them hope. Think of it like this. You are a node in the network of human consciousness. When you learn something, you can share it. When you create something, others can experience it. When you love someone, you change their experience of being alive. You are not isolated. You're connected to billions of other conscious beings, and you're connected to billions that came before, and billions that will come after. Your significance is not in your size. It's in your position in that network. Here's what should make you sleep peacefully. Your life matters, not your accomplishments, not your status. Your existence matters. The fact that you're here, conscious, aware, experiencing this moment that matters to the universe, to the evolutionary process that created you, to everyone who knows you, to everyone you'll meet. You matter, and that's not ego. That's not narcissism. That's recognizing your actual place in the cosmic story. You're a conscious being that emerged from the process that created everything. You're the universe becoming aware of itself. Of course you matter. We've traveled far together. We've gone from the shocks of the beginning all the way to the profound peace of understanding your place in the cosmos. Now, as we approach the end of this journey, I want to leave you with something that will help you sleep deeply and wake up transformed. The ultimate truth of evolution is this. You don't need to achieve anything to have value. You are already complete. You are the product of billions of years of evolution. Your body works. Your brain works. Your consciousness exists. You're not unfinished. You're not broken. You're not a work in progress that needs to be better. You're exactly what you are. A human being evolved to be a human being, doing the work of being human. But here's the paradox that should make you smile. Even though you don't need to achieve anything to be complete, you want to. You want to create, to learn, to love, to grow. And that desire? That's evolution. That's the drive that pushed life forward for 4 billion years, now expressed in your consciousness. Your desire to be better, to do better, that's not a flaw. That's evolution working through you. So the peace isn't in stopping. The peace is in understanding that the drive to do better is a beautiful thing. It's not something you have to suppress. It's something you can embrace. Your ambition is ancient. Your desire to learn is ancient. Your capacity for love is ancient. Use them. Express them. Let them move through you. Think of it like this. A river doesn't strain to flow downhill. It just flows. It's its nature. In the same way, your nature is to grow and create and connect. That's not a burden. That's just what you do when you're being yourself. So let yourself do it. Stop fighting against your nature. Embrace what evolution has made you. Here's a mind-blown moment about your own future. You're not done evolving. The process hasn't stopped. Evolution is happening right now, today. In thousands of years, humans will be different. We'll be different because environments will have changed, because we'll have selected for different traits, because technology will have changed what's valuable. We might have genetic modifications. We might have merged with machines. We might be living on other planets with different evolutionary pressures. We might be unrecognizable to ourselves. But that's okay. That's not something to fear. That's the next chapter of the story that started 4 billion years ago. You're part of that story. Your children and grandchildren will be part of that story. And even if humanity looks completely different in 1,000 years, they'll be descended from you. They'll carry your genes. They'll carry your ideas. You will have shaped the future just by living and passing on what you know. Think of it like this. Evolution isn't ending. It's accelerating. The rate of change is speeding up. And you're alive at one of the most interesting moments in evolutionary history. You're alive when humans have become conscious agents of evolution. You're alive when we're beginning to edit our own genes, when we're creating artificial intelligence, when we're spreading beyond Earth and beginning to terraform other planets. You're here at a turning point. How cool is that? And here's what should make you feel simultaneously humbled and empowered. You have more agency than any human in history. You have more ability to shape the future than any ancestor. You can learn anything. You can go anywhere. You can create things that will last beyond your lifetime. You can choose to have children or not. You can choose to educate yourself about evolution and pass that knowledge on. You have power. You have agency. You have choice. Use it wisely. Use it with kindness. Use it with creativity. Use it with the understanding that you're not separate from nature. You're part of nature expressing itself. Every choice you make ripples outward. Every act of kindness creates a wave of goodness that spreads. Everything you create or learn or build adds to the collective knowledge and beauty of human consciousness. Here's what Dr. Richard Dawkins ultimately concluded about evolution. Despite starting his career with a focus on selfish genes, life evolved cooperation. Life evolved love. Life evolved the capacity to care about other beings, to sacrifice for them, to create meaning through connection. Evolution didn't create a cold, uncaring universe. Evolution created you, and you have the capacity to love. That's not coincidence. That's what billion years of evolution produces. Think of it like this. We often talk about evolution as if it's cruel, red in tooth and claw. But the most successful organisms are not the most vicious. The most successful organisms are the ones that cooperate best. Humans became the dominant species not because we're the strongest, but because we're the most cooperative. We could work together, communicate, share knowledge. We built civilizations on cooperation. That's our superpower. That's what evolution made us good at. So love others, cooperate with others, teach others, build with others. That's not against your evolutionary nature. That's fulfilling your evolutionary nature. That's what you're built for. And here's the final piece. You're going to die. All humans do. Your consciousness will end. Your body will decompose. Your atoms will return to the earth. And that's not sad. That's natural. That's the cycle. Your life is a temporary expression of eternal matter. You get to use it while you have it. And then you return it to the universe, just like every creature before you. But before you return it, you get to experience it. You get to think and feel and love and create. You get to know that you're made of stardust. You get to know that you're descended from 4 billion years of incredible ancestors. You get to know that you're part of the most complex, sophisticated, beautiful process in the universe. You get to be conscious. You get to be aware. You get to be alive. That's a gift. That's the ultimate gift. Not a forever gift. A temporary gift that makes it more precious, more valuable. You have maybe 80 years on average. 80 years to experience existence. That's not much in cosmic time. That's everything in human time. Use it. Enjoy it. Be grateful for it. Here's what I want you to do right now. Feel your breath. Feel your heartbeat. That's your body, doing what your ancestors' bodies learned to do 600 million years ago, when fish first had hearts. That's your consciousness, thinking about how your consciousness came to exist. That's the universe, aware of itself, through you. Feel that. Really feel it. This moment, right now, is the product of 4 billion years of evolution. It's the culmination of unimaginable struggle and success. It's the most unlikely, most remarkable thing. You exist. You're conscious. You're aware. And you're part of something that's been going on since the beginning of time. That should make you sleep deeply and peacefully. Because you're not separate from the universe. You're not alone. You're not an accident. You're home. You're loved by the very fabric of existence. You're a child of the stars. You're a continuation of billions of years of ancestors. You're a node in the network of conscious beings. You're significant. You matter. You exist. And that's enough. That's everything. That's peace. Sleep now. Dream of ancient oceans and evolving fish. Dream of dinosaurs walking under alien skies. Dream of the first flowers. Dream of the first mammals. Dream of the first humans looking up at the stars and wondering who they were. Dream of yourself right now, continuing that wondering, continuing that evolutionary journey, adding your consciousness to the great web of being. You are evolution. Evolution is you. And that beautiful, peaceful knowledge will carry you into rest. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being alive, for subscribing, for asking which country you're listening from, for being part of this community of curious minds exploring the most peaceful science there is. This is the story of how you came to exist. This is the story of how the universe became conscious of itself through you. And it's far from over. The evolution continues. The story goes on. And you're writing the next chapter with every breath, every thought, every act of creation and love. Welcome home. Welcome to the universe. Welcome to evolution. Welcome to yourself.